That is a huge power play in your own life when you just decide, you know what, I'll do this no longer. I will no longer tolerate my old excuses for not showing up authentically as myself. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. Every single day has the potential to be a great day, even if it didn't start out that great. Every single day. And today is one of those days because we are talking about the courageous action toward being authentically you. How do you do that? What are the ways that you can find courage to be the unique person that is you, that perhaps for your whole life you have not even allowed? You know, have you ever been in that place where you've recognized someone and you thought, oh my gosh, she looks so comfortable in her own skin. She looks so confident. I wish I could be like that. She's so unique. Or look at him. He's so comfortable just being himself. He doesn't give a damn about what other people think about him. I wish I could be like that too. Well, that's what we're talking about today. So today I'm going to share with you the top 5 ways, 5 tips, 5 strategies for how to be more authentically you. And what does that even mean? So if this sounds like an exciting conversation, join me in this episode today. And I ask you always, share this episode with 3 friends, because the more we can bring this exciting information about uplifting others to the world, the more lives we can change. Be that source of inspiration for someone else. Share this with someone else who needs to hear this. Share this with 3 friends, and then watch how they share it with 3 more, and we can just watch that ripple effect all around us as we let people know that today really can be a good day. Today really can be the day you make the decision to just be yourself authentically you, when for decades, perhaps, you have been living a label that you took on many years ago, living your life day to day as you should, not as the miraculously unique person that you really are. And what would that feel like? What would it feel like to be that woman or that man walking down the street that when other people looked at you, they were like, oh my gosh, how does she do it? How does she just be so comfortable with who she is and stand in her truth? Those are the people that inspire us. I have this quote from Brené Brown. She says, authenticity is a collection of choices. I love that. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. I love this quote so much because it reminds us of the power that we have in our lives. It reminds us that we do have the power of choice. It also reminds us about the responsibility of that in our lives, that every day we have the opportunity to make that choice, and that every day it is up to us to make it. Not something outside of ourselves, not something that happens to us, but permission we give ourselves. So let's dive right into it today. Let's talk about those 5 tips. I'm going to start out with number 1. And the question just is, who are you? And it's interesting because this seems so overly simplistic. And yet it's the question that I hear most from clients is, all right, I really want to be authentic. I really want to be that unique person that I know I am. But after so many years of pretending, I don't even know who I am. You are not alone if you feel this way. If I say to you, just who are you? And you can't even answer that question, do not be afraid, because you are not alone. It is the most brave and bold question to ask. And what's really interesting is when you ask yourself that question, very often we answer it based on things outside of ourselves. So I might say I'm an orthodontist, I'm a mother to 3 phenomenal children, I'm Killian's wife. I might give you all of what society has put on me as labels, but that's not really who I authentically am, is it? So I challenge you. Who are you? Maybe those parts are you, but they're just a part of you. They're not all of you. They don't encompass the uniqueness of you. You haven't always been mother to those children or owner of that professional title. Who are you? And the fun thing about this first step is you can just brainstorm, just let it all out. What I highly recommend is sitting down with a pen and paper, giving yourself some quiet time, turning on some great music that makes you feel good about yourself, and just start brainstorming. Who are you? What do you love? What lights you up? What inspires you? Don't worry, there's no wrong answers. Nobody's going to see this, but it helps to connect you, reconnect you with who you are inside, not the persona that you've been putting on for others. And of course, all those aspects of you are you as well. They make up who you are. Your experience, your loves and your passions drew you to where you are now. So they are a part of you. But just start brainstorming. And then as you go through, just start recognizing that you're designing and painting that portrait of that authentic, uniquely special, precious person. And, embedded in this first step is start editing. Start eliminating things that really aren't you. What have you owned as who you are over the past years or decades of your life that really you choose now not to make a part of yourself? What has there been who you've just been assuming along the way has been who you are, but maybe you're not that person really? Maybe you thought you were in the past, but now you're not. So step 2 is, after you've brainstormed everything about who you are as a unique person. And by the way, these steps are also phenomenal steps in creating businesses. Because when you're developing and creating a business, that is yours, that is a part of who you are, these steps are critical. Because the ultimate success of a business that you're creating from scratch has to show and be very transparent who you are in terms of your values, because you're going to incorporate your business plan and your business model to live up to its greatest potential, which is the strengths that embody you, that you embody. So as we go through these 5 tips, remember that these are very applicable to designing a business of your dreams. Whether it's an orthodontic practice or a coaching business or a florist or a physical therapy lymphedema clinic, and you know who you are when I'm talking to you. Any way that you're designing your business plan, if it's going to be a reflection of you, it's important for you to understand what makes you uniquely you, and how do we step into that beautiful power of who that person is. So, step 1, just start brainstorming. Step 2, research. As with anything that's worth our time, we're going to take the time to do some research. And what research is, when we're talking about being authentically you, is, remember when I started this episode, I said, have you ever looked at somebody and thought, wow, she just is so comfortable being herself? Well, who are those people who inspire you? So have you always admired a person? It can be a famous person. It can be someone you know. It can be a friend. It can be a colleague. Who is it that you have always looked at and just been drawn to? You know that saying namaste, we've talked about this on previous episodes, but namaste means the beauty in me recognizes the beauty in you. And what that is you're seeing something incredible in someone that is a reflection of something incredible inside of you. So time to start doing some research. Start scrolling and writing down what it is that you see in someone else that maybe is a whisper or a little mirror neuron of something inside of you. Something that maybe you've been covering up for a long time. Maybe there's something that you admire in someone just because they're so brave to bring it to the forefront. And that aspect is actually something inside of you that you've not allowed anyone else to see. Those are important aspects of who you are. You know, I used to admire so many people and think, oh, I could never be like that. I used to look at, people who spoke on stage or people who had podcasts. The podcast game is a big one for me. And I thought, I have so much I want to share. I have so much in me about finding positivity and strength and empowerment in our lives over our own lives. I wish I could be that person. And just by recognizing those people, and to this day I do it, I look constantly who is inspiring me. And that's the nugget of inspiration. Instead of using that as intimidation, use it as inspiration. Instead of thinking I could never do that, have it be a reflection of what is possible inside of you. So that's the big strength of this number 2 step is research. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one-on-one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know. Number 3 is decision. Decide. That's it. Just one day, stop pretending and just decide to be yourself. That's it. Just go for it. Embedded in this step is permission. Embedded in this step is discipline. Embedded in this step is drawing a line in the sand where you refuse to pretend to be someone else any longer. And this decision, just as Brené Brown said in her quote, has to be a daily decision. But there gets to be a point where we just stop complaining. We stop accepting the excuses and the old stories that we had for ourselves about why we weren't just being our authentic selves, and we just refuse to allow and tolerate that old behavior any longer. We just make a decision. I've had enough. I've had enough hiding behind my old stories. I've had enough hiding behind what I thought other people were thinking about me. I've had enough hiding. I really just want to live this life authentically as myself. That decision in and of itself is a huge power step. That is a huge power play in your own life when you just decide, you know what, I'll do this no longer. I will no longer tolerate my old excuses for not showing up authentically as myself. And then step number 4, are we on 4? Yes, is taking bold, messy action. That means just doing it. So in step number 3, when you made the decision to be yourself and to show up as yourself, in step number 4, we are actually doing it. You are taking that first brave step. And, we've talked about courage before on this podcast, and so many people feel like they don't have courage. They don't feel courageous. That isn't a part of their persona. But being courageous happens when you start taking action. It means getting on that bicycle and just stepping down on the pedal and releasing your other stabilizing foot off the ground. And will you fall? Absolutely. You're going to tumble before you learn the balance. You're going to figure it out. But next time, you're going to move your body a little bit differently on that seat, on that saddle of the bicycle. You're going to put your weight in a slightly different position. Now you're going to lift your foot up off the ground. You're going to be a little bit more stable. And then when you push down on the pedal, you're going to fall again. Now you're going to hold your weight differently again. Maybe you overcompensated to one side. the same is true in terms of taking action towards living daily as the true, authentic version of yourself, being courageous in originality, being courageous to just be who you are. It's brave. It's possibly one of the bravest things that we can do. And it's true, we can look outside of ourselves and see other people who do it so effortlessly. And I promise you, it becomes more and more comfortable the more action you take towards it. It just takes taking that very first step. And if you will, look to the youth, for example. Younger generations seem to do it so much more comfortably. And it's really interesting because a couple of weeks ago, my middle son said to me, Mom, I've noticed something about old people, and don't be offended. First of all, I had to put aside the fact that he called me old. But anyway, I forgive him that. I said, no, sweetheart, I won't be offended. Tell me whatever you want to say about us old people. And he said, old people are very uncomfortable doing things that are new and outside of what's already a part of their habit pattern. And he is absolutely right. We become so staid and stuck in our daily routines that we begin to get uncomfortable with discomfort. I know that sounds like the definition of discomfort, but if you'll notice that pattern in your own life and in the people around you, you'll see we begin to do fewer actions that feel not completely comfortable and within our safety zone. And maybe those limitations of taking uncomfortable, messy action has held you back from further growth, has kept you from realizing your dreams. Maybe getting out of bed a little bit earlier feels a little bit uncomfortable, so you just don't do it. Even though that's your goal, is to give yourself some quiet time by yourself in the morning before the rest of the world wakes up. And every morning it's like, it's just a little uncomfortable, and I'm really figured out how to be really comfortable in my life, so I'm not going to do it. Or maybe you really want to eat differently, and it's been so comfortable to just have dessert every single night, and every night your habit pattern just falls into place and you start craving that sweet, and you think, well, it's too uncomfortable, I deserve it. You start giving yourself all these old stories that for decades have been working for you, and you forget that goal of not wanting to eat so much sugar. In the moment, it's just too uncomfortable to resist and to fight that old habit pattern. So you just give in for comfort's sake. Well, sometimes we have to break that habit pattern by taking that messy action, by feeling a little bit uncomfortable, by showing up as your true, authentic self. And when you do, that's when we kick in step number 5. Step number 5 is celebration. I'm going to tell you the story. When I was first embarking on this journey, where I really realized I have to stop playing small. I need to start showing up as my authentic self, and not just in one arena of my life. I need to love this human being named Tarryn. I have to show up as her in every aspect of my life, because what I noticed was I was robbing myself of my own happiness when I was pretending to be someone else. And I had pretended it for so long that I'd forgotten who she is. So when I was starting to rediscover her, I knew I had to draw a line in the sand and start showing up as that incredible human being that I knew I was inside myself every single day in every single way. And I can remember the day that I first did this outside of my comfort zone. I remember what I was wearing. That's how emotional it was for me. I remember the car I was driving. I remember the place I went to. I showed up at one of my son's friends' homes just to pick him up. And I hopped out of the car with my baseball cap on and my tank top on. And this family might have known me as an orthodontist, so always seen me in a formal attire in a more formal way. And here I was jumping out of the car, actually not even getting out of the opening the door. I stood up out of the open roof of my Jeep and in my tank top and baseball cap and brought my full happy self to my cheering and welcoming of my son back to the car. And I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself for showing up with optimism and positivity because that is one of the things that I value about myself. I value and I honor that part of who I am. Now, it's going to be something different for you. But when I showed up as myself, I allowed myself to be that positive presence. I felt fabulous. And then I celebrated it. Because believe it or not, even that little step is courageous. It was for me at the time. Believe it or not, I'd never allowed myself to be that authentic, that vulnerable in front of other people. Even that for me was brave. So when you're taking a step that feels courageous and you think to yourself and you give yourself that old story of, oh my gosh, this is so silly. This is so dumb. I should be able to just be myself. Don't beat yourself up about it because I have been there, my friend. You are not alone. If you have been putting off and showing up as someone else for so long, this is going to be uncomfortable. But man, start celebrating when you do. Even if it's in a small little interaction like that one was, just picking my son up at a friend's house. That to me was an enormous win. And that little courageous, messy action allowed me to be more courageous next time because I was feeding myself the celebration. I was giving myself those words of affirmation, those words of courage and pride and love, compassion. I was feeding myself so that I could do it again next time. Taking those little steps adds up over time. It's that compounding effect. And those are the 5 first courageous steps to becoming more authentically you, to living in originality, to owning who you are, because the world needs who you are. The world needs this originality. We need your new insight. We need your new passion. We need your courageous acceptance and honoring of who you are and standing in your authentic self. My friends, sending you so much love today, sending you so much courage. I believe in you, and I believe in that miraculous person inside of you. Just remember, as leaders and as givers to this community and as servers of this community and of the greater community, you can only do good when you feel good, and you can do great things when you feel great. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Business of Happiness podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and if you know of a colleague who could benefit from this perspective, empower their day and share this episode with them. Or check out more episodes on thebizofhappiness.com. I look forward to discussing happiness in business and in life with you further again next episode. And until then, remember, today is going to be a great day.